Alrighty, great. So again, this is our monthly CoC training, required training for all of our CoC providers, but also welcome to all that are supporting participants experiencing homelessness or housing crisis, uh, teams supporting those folks here in our community. Today's training is on connecting clients to employment. If you're able to, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Some housekeeping reminders as we get started today. A reminder that we do have everyone muted automatically. So if you have questions, we have a question and answer period and discussion. Please raise your hand so we can unmute you. All of our presenters, you should be co-hosts and able to unmute yourself. So Claire, I just saw you check that you can, so it looks good. And feel free, folks, to use the chat. If you have questions or comments, utilize our chat to ask questions as well. Again, if you'd like to speak, raise your hand and introduce yourself in the chat. So just some reminders. Some norms and agreements for this morning's training, just to ensure this is a productive and safe space to everyone here. Reminder to please respect each other, respect our trainers, and be mindful of making space for folks to speak, ask questions in the space that you're taking. We share the mic, so taking turns asking questions and whatnot, raising our hand, and acknowledging power and privilege that we're coming into this space together today. Some information about these monthly trainings. Our CoC trainings are hosted monthly for homeless service providers in Contra Costa and cover information or skills that are considered to be essential by HUD or our system of care in providing services to people experiencing homelessness. They're hosted by us here at H3, usually Jamie J. So surprise, I'm hosting today, folks, so bear with me. But hosted by the H3 team on the second Monday of every month from 10 a.m. to noon. And these trainings are required for direct service staff, so such as case managers, care coordinators, and program managers providing services in our community. Some of the trainings, such as Housing First, are required by our funder, which is the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, to ensure that all programs and staff in our CoC operate under the same principles and practices. Other training, we also have a realm of other trainings that we provide that we have identified as a community to be important, such as housing-focused case management. Attendance for this training is monitored by our team and discussed during our monthly and quarterly provider check-ins with myself or our CoC administrator, Shelby Ferguson. And providers or programs that do not attend or are lacking attendance can be subject to corrective action. But I see a great group of folks this morning, so hopefully, if you have team members that should have received this invite, please feel free to share it with them if you don't see them here today. So some goals of today's training are to provide you all with information on tools on connecting participants and people experiencing homelessness with education and job training opportunities. And also facilitating informal employment opportunities for program participants and people experiencing homelessness. So you guys will hear about some different resources on employment and connecting folks to job training opportunities this morning. In our CoC written standards, this applies to our system goals around how to connect program participants and people experiencing homelessness with education and job training opportunities, how to facilitate information and formal employment opportunities, and how to facilitate volunteer opportunities. So some of that criteria that's covered in our written standards. With all that being said, before we jump into this morning's training and hearing from our guest speakers, I did want to go ahead and share with you all some data and information on why this training is relevant and important to our system of care, and some of that bigger picture information. First, uh, the measure of employment and income growth for all of our participants is a HUD system performance measure. So in HMIS, when you all are entering, when folks are getting employed, their income sources, maybe at entry and exit to your program, that type of information is all something that the performance of our entire system of care, so all the work that we're all doing, it is one area that our system is graded on, essentially, by HUD. So really important that we are doing our best to connect our participants to employment resources and job training opportunities. What this looks like in HMIS is measures around the number of system stayers with increased income, system leavers with increased income, and looking at different sources of income. So if you can see here on our slide, we have some data around income in terms of participants that you all are serving in your different programs. So again, really important and also important to enter that data, right? When you've helped your participant get a job or when you know they've gotten a job or maybe got connected to benefits, that you're entering that information so it can be tracked and that it can reflect the excellent work that you all are doing. And some of our PIT data also wanted to share that for some context as well. So in terms of understanding the reasons why someone maybe is experiencing homelessness or those circumstances that led to a person's homelessness, what we see in our community, although this is from 2024, still very relevant, what we see in our community is that roughly 27% of people experiencing homelessness in our community report that employment or job loss was that cause or circumstance that led to their housing loss. So again, really centering the importance of employment for our community because 27% of our folks, that's one of the factors that led to their homelessness. So we can get folks reconnected with employment, etc., can help them in their situation. Also want to highlight information that was published in the California statewide study of people experiencing homelessness, which is one of the largest studies ever done on homelessness and kind of causes and factors around homelessness here in California. And what we saw in that study was that 18% of folks surveyed reported income from jobs, 8% reported any income from formal employment, and 11% from informal employment. 72% of folks reported that at least a 2-year gap since working 20 hours or more. So underemployment for people experiencing homelessness. So again, really highlights the importance of our work in getting folks reconnected to employment. And then 44% of folks surveyed did report that they were looking for employment. So, in any help that folks can get, like from their case managers, care coordinators, et cetera, and getting back into the workforce can have such a great impact into their pathway to housing and their housing stability, being able to maintain housing, et cetera. In the CASP report, they also highlighted some of the barriers to employment. So as we hear from our presenters today and thinking of all the participants that we're all serving, thinking about what are those barriers that they are facing in order to get gainful employment, and how can we support them in overcoming those barriers. In terms of folks surveyed, 52% said that problems related to their older age, health, or disability impacted their ability to get employment. 50% said that transportation to or from the workplace hindered their ability to work. 20% said that a record of arrests or prior convictions and being on community supervision following incarceration posed challenges to employment. And 8% said that caretaking responsibilities impacted their ability to get employment. So just some of those, as we hear how to get folks connected, also being mindful of the barriers that our participants are facing in actually being successful with their employment, and how can we support them in our work in overcoming those barriers and getting them connected into other resources to help. For example, transportation, right? Can we get them connected to a bus service, provide any help with transportation, or their disability, etc. Also want to be mindful to center inequities in for our participants and that they're facing. So white workers are 50% more likely than workers of color to hold what are considered good jobs, so maybe higher paying jobs of a higher title, etc. Median wages are higher for white workers with a high school diploma and no college, $19 an hour, than for black workers with an associate degree, 18 dollars an hour. So just looking at the inequities there in terms of pay, 4 out of 5 white and Asian or Pacific Islander workers earn at least $15 an hour, but fewer than half of Latinx immigrants are paid this basic living wage. And white applicants are called back 36% more often than black applicants and 24% more often than Latinx applicants. This is from a study published on policylink.org on race and the workforce of the future. So just again, centering the barriers as well as these inequities in our system or institutional level that our participants may be facing as they try to get work. We know that sometimes they can get discouraged, right, as they're getting back into the workforce. And how can we best support them knowing all of these factors that are above and outside of their control as individuals? Some questions, some equity questions to consider and just to hold in your mind as we go through this training and to think about. Um, have you noticed inequities in your own work on this topic? Have you or have we contributed to or interrupted inequities? And what barriers still exist? How might they be addressed? So, just to hold some of those thoughts as we hear from our presenters this morning. The trainers that we will hear from today, we have Anthony Jong, WIOA career coach with Antioch, WIOA, and Rubicon programs. We have Narama Birch, program manager with Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa, as well as Maureen Nelson, to speak about the Workforce Development Board and the youth workforce programs. We have Serena Moore, a program and project coordinator with Workforce Development Board, um, speaking on EMT and paramedic training program. We'll hear from Claire Michaels, the regional manufacturing career specialist with East Bay Works. And then Patricia Connolly, a program manager with EHSD on the Maritime Skills Training Program. And actually, before we jump in, before I forget our poll questions too, do want to just get a understanding of who is in the room. So we have a quick poll. If we could take 1 minute before we hear from our first speaker, Anthony. Gonna go ahead and start this poll. And remember, folks, they said this is my first time doing a poll. Hopefully you can see it. We see a poll. If you could take a moment, we just like to, it does say a different training name, but uh, hmm, wait, that's the wrong poll. Sorry, everyone. Let's try this one more time. Um, mm, mm, mm. Who's in the room? Here we go. Okay. So this is just to give us an understanding of who is with us here this morning. We'll take a minute for you all to answer. If you could please see that poll. Go ahead and answer. All righty. Thank you to those who answered. So just to give folks a little uh, snapshot of who is in the room, even though I think we can see a lot of each other and we know each other for the most part, but just idea of who's in the room with us. Just you want to highlight around representation of people who have experienced homelessness, and some of these other factors, what agency you're all representing. So thank you for participating. And with that being said, we will go ahead and turn it over to our first presenter this morning. We have Anthony Jong, a WIOA career coach with Rubicon.
Um, Mary, did you want me to give an overview of WDB?
Is that applicable to Anthony's programs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead, Maureen. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. So I'm the administrator with the Workforce Development Board. We're funded by the Department of Labor to offer, to fund job training and career centers and help people become employed. I've been coordinating these trainings for a couple of years, and usually I have all the community-based organizations with at least one talking about WIOA, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is kind of the main grant. You'll hear about that. But this year is different. The Workforce Development Board itself has so many innovative grants that after Anthony, you're just going to hear from WDB staff on our grants. And I also wanted, I will post our URL in the chat. I did that earlier when I introduced myself, but I wanted to, even if you've been to our website before, it has been redesigned since the last time we delivered this training. So go ahead and click through and check it out after this is over so you can pay attention to what you'll be hearing. We have a great lineup today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly. Okay, so I'll turn it back over to Anthony.
Thank you, Maureen.
Good
All
morning,
right.
everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. My name is Anthony Jong. I am a WIOA career coach with Rubicon program serving the Antioch area. This is the first time I host this, so bear with me. Today, I'm going to talk about what WIOA is, how WIOA can help the unhoused population. Um, Thank you. What documents are needed to sign up, and most importantly, how to send a referral to WIOA coach. So I'm part of the Contra Costa Workforce Collaborative, which is a network of agency from west to east Contra Costa County, from San Pablo to Brentwood that connect people to workforce development services. This collaboration includes Liberty Adult Education, Pittsburgh, Martinez, Mount Diablo's Education, Adult Education, All Contra Costa Community College, AJCC Concord, and Rubicon programs, All Family Community Development, Upper Junction, and San Pablo Economic Development. Today, I'll walk you through the basic of WIOA and how to help your clients, especially those experiencing homelessness. This individual adult education colleges, you can get WIOA funded. Next slide, please. So what is WIOA? WIOA is short for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It's a federal program enacted in 2014 and signed into law by President Barack Obama. The purpose of WIOA is to help job seeker access education, training, and support services, make it easier for employers to hire skilled workers. WIOA programs provides eligible participant with up to $5,000 for classroom training or on-the-job training or OJT. We provide service to individuals facing barriers to employment, which included individual with low income or receiving public assistance, veterans and dependent spouse, justice impacted individual formerly incarcerated involved in the justice system, individual experiences homelessness, those who are basic skill deficiency or English language learner, and also dislocated worker. People just get laid off or facing laid off. Next slide, please. Um, so who WIOA serves? WIOA offer service for adult dislocated workers and youth. For Rubicon programs, we provide WIOA service for adult and dislocated worker. Basic eligibility requirement is participant need to be at least 18 years old. They need to be eligible to work in the US, and for males that born on or after 1960 must provide selective service verification. A college job account must be created, and they must have at least one barrier to employment, which I mentioned it earlier, which is homeless, low income, and all. Eligibility information is collected at the start of the WIO process. For example, we gather a copy of participant ID or driver license to verify age and identity, collect their social security to confirm work eligibility in the US, and obtain supporting documents to address any barriers to employment. Next slide, please. Priority sector, we all focus on the training and employment in high demand, high growth industry. Currently, our priority sectors including advanced manufacture such as CNC, computer numeric control, machine robotics, and CAD. Healthcare and life science, for example, CNA. I have a bunch of people doing medical assistance, medical billing and coding, and sterile processing. Energy, such as solar PV installer, construction and transportation, such as carpentries, electrician, and CDL, and also information and community technology. We have like CompTIA A plus, Network plus, and all, of course, artificial intelligence. This sector are chosen because they have strong hiring demand and good long-term career potential. Next slide, please. So how to get started? The easiest way for participants to sign up for WIOA is by visiting the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County's Bounce Back websites. They can either type the full URL or scan the QR code that I made in the slides. On this site, participants can enter their information, watch the WIOA orientation video, watch resume, cover letter, and job search video. Once the form is submitted, Rita from HACC will review the participant zip code and send a warm hands-off email to the WIOA coach serving that area. For example, if the participant put the zip code of Antioch, it will go directly to me. My process after receiving the referral is once I receive the bounce back, I will send the participant an online initial assessment form. I provide direction to creating their college jobs accounts, and once those are complete, I invite them to a one-on-one meeting or to attend one of my info session orientation, which happen usually every first Tuesday of the month at any of Rubicon programs. The initial assessment will help me to determine their priority category and which documents I'll need to collect. For example, for an unhoused participant, I will need a copy of their ID or driver license, social security card, selective service for males born after 1960, and an affidavit stating their current housing status. Different priorities require different documentation. Next slide, please. Rubicon programs and returning citizen. At Rubicon programs, we also serve returning citizens, including who were formerly incarcerated. I have experience with participants who fall under more than one priority status. For example, many individuals are both unhoused and receiving public assistance. Likewise, there's many returning citizens who are also unhoused. At Rubicon programs, our mission is to equip and empower participants to move out of poverty and achieve economic mobility. We focus in these four key areas: asset, income, wellness, and connections. So, asset, we build financial stability; income, securing employment and career advancement; for wellness, supporting physical and mental health; and last, connections is building strong supporting network. We believe no single service can solve poverty. Success comes from combining support in all four areas. At Rubicon programs, our collaboration with WIOA participant means that we're not just processing WIOA paperwork, we're also providing a full range of service to make sure participant success from start to finish. First, we give participant access to our facility. If someone doesn't have a computer or reliable internet, for example, they can use our resource room to look for a job, work on the resume, take typing tests, or complete online application. We also have staff nearby to answer questions if they get stuck. Second, we offer career coaching and job readiness support. This isn't just quick meeting. We work one-on-one to set goals, prepare resume and cover letters, practicing interview skills, and make sure participant knows how to present themselves to employee. For example, if someone is nervous about an interview, we do a mock interview and give them feedback so they can walk in confidence. Third, we provide supportive service, which I kind of forget to put in the slides. So we all participant. This might mean helping with the transportation to interview or training, provider work boots or uniform, or even covering test fees when it's required for employment or training. This support can make a difference between someone just getting started and actually completing their training or landing a job. Finally, we stay connected with our participant. We don't just sign them up and then wish them luck. We track their progress, follow up regularly, and help troubleshoot any barriers that come up, whether it's training challenges or unexpected life events. We work to connect them with resources so they can keep moving forward toward their career goals. At the end of the day, Rubicon's role is to make sure that once someone is accepted to WIOA, they have the tools, space, and support they need to success. Um, and that's it from me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anthony. I do see one before we jump into our poll. Please feel free to, if you have any questions for Anthony, put them in the chat. And I do see one question from Renee who asked, "Is what is the age limit?"
Um, there's no age limit as long as they're above 18.
Okay. And it does look like Maureen also added that there's some youth-specific programs for youth
Mhm.
ages 16 to 24. Folks, if you have any questions for Anthony, please feel free to raise your hand. And I'm going to go ahead and share our poll. And while folks answer that, we can also have time for questions. Here's our poll. Questions asking just to check for understanding, asking about the WIOA priority sectors, which populations are eligible for WIOA. So please take a moment. We want to make sure everyone understood um, and answer that poll. Can everyone see the poll? Should be a little pop-up. No, you can't see the poll? No.
I'm just seeing the results of the poll.
Oh. Hmm. And the question is employment. I think some of us
I
are
think
answering.
some people don't know to click the get QR code and scan it with their phones and do the poll from your phone. So
Oh,
those instructions might have been missed.
oopsies. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to see it. Thanks everyone for your grace. My first time doing polls in a Zoom. So fun stuff. I do see answers trickling in. Feel free to also, if you have any questions for Anthony, just give it a little bit. Okay. Jamisha, thank you for letting us know. I think it is popping up for some folks. So the poll left. Uh-oh, the poll disappeared. Oh, it is a timed poll. It's a preset time poll. Okay, so the poll has ended. So now we know for the next one, everyone, that it's timed. Okay, but 43 of you were able to answer. And so the first question, let's see, share results. Which of the following are not? So let's see. I'm not sure, Anthony, if you want to review some of those priority sectors.
Yeah,
I
the
see.
first one is cosmetologist and barber apprentice. That is not the priority sector.
Okay. So everything else is, so that's good to know, folks, if you have participants interested in those areas of employment. And then in terms of eligible populations, um,
All of
looks
the
like
above.
all of the
Yes.
above. Great. And that's what most folks answered. So I'm glad that we remembered that. With that being said, we'll go ahead and move on to our, thank you so much, Anthony. At the end of this training, we'll share out slides. So if you have follow-up questions, Anthony's contact information will be shared if you didn't happen to grab it in one of the earlier slides. And we will go ahead and move on to our next speaker from Workforce Development Board. We have Narama Birch, Program Manager, going to be speaking about youth workforce programs. And let me make sure I have given Narama the permission to unmute. There you are. Alrighty. Okay. Narama, you should be able to unmute and
Okay, I think it worked.
perfect.
Let's see, is everyone able to hear me okay? I had some technical difficulty this morning. Okay, great. Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the WIOA Youth and Young Adult Program. So you heard the term WIOA from Anthony, and they are funded by the same federal funding dollars, and there are some kind of overlaps between the adult and youth WIOA programs. I'll kind of try to highlight those as well as the differences. So if you're working with somebody that you want to refer, rather than kind of getting the runaround, you'll be able to kind of channel them to the appropriate WIOA program, depending on what the focus is. So we'll talk about WIOA, and then I also wanted to give a kind of a quick shout out about a new project that we've launched, the Civil Engineering Degree Apprenticeship Pathway. So next slide. For purposes of the WIOA Youth Program, we've kind of divided the county into 3 main geographic areas, and they're served by different providers. So West Contra Costa County is currently served by Contra Costa County Office of Education, their Youth Development Services Department. Central Contra Costa, so kind of Bay Point, Concord, Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill South is served by Mount Diablo Unified School District, their Youth Employment Services Department. And then East Contra Costa County is served by County Office of Ed Youth Development Services. So they're serving both West and East. Services actually take place out in the community, mostly through partnerships. These folks may actually be co-located with some of your organizations already. They can always meet with young people at the career centers or at different schools, libraries, other CBO partners. So the program does cover the entirety of Contra Costa County. So next slide. So I'm going to call out the WIOA funding priorities just because, so it's called the WIOA Youth Program, but we really are mainly serving out of school youth, young adults. and we'll go into a little bit about the overlap and differences with the WIOA adult program, but the funding requires that we put the majority of the resources for young people who are out of school. So that includes people who have dropped out of high school, but it also may include high school graduates who are low income, with some other barriers. We'll talk about that. So, but our population tends to be young people who are completely disconnected from any kind of training. We're trying to kind of re-engage them. There's also a heavy focus on the funding for work experience. So you heard Anthony talk about the focus of the WIOA Adult and Dislocated Worker Program being more on kind of the training and occupational skills. In the youth program, we see a heavy focus on paid work experience, and that is where a young person is placed with an employer on a temporary basis and paid an actual wage while they're learning on the job. Okay, next slide. The eligibility for out-of-school youth and in-school young people are a little bit different. So age, of course. So we're serving young folks between the ages of 16 and 24. School status, so if they're already engaged in school, post-secondary, any kind of training activity, they would kind of have priority for resources through our out-of-school youth program. And then in-school youth will also kind of place them in a youth category. And then both in-school and out-of-school youth programs, eligibility is based on challenge to employment. So we used to be known as like, okay, we are the program for low-income young people, and that has changed. So really, eligibility for the programs are now based on challenges or barriers to employment. And then also calling your attention to WIOA rules have been recently reinterpreted so that authorization to work is now a requirement of eligibility. We used to be able to provide some WIOA educational services for folks who we hadn't checked their authorization to work, but the feds have just reinterpreted eligibility, so they do need to be able to produce authorization to work documents. That was kind of a blow to our programs. Next slide. Little bit of a deep dive on out-of-school youth eligibility. So you'll see age 16 to 24. Yes, there is overlap between the adult program. So from Anthony, you learned that adults for the adult program 18 and above. I like to think of a kind of a distinction between the two, as one is really more focused on those classroom occupational skills, and then the youth program's very heavy with its focus on work experience. The other eligibility kind of difference between the adult and youth programs is for the youth programs, they do need to have a documented challenge to employment. Whereas with the adult program, being low income can put them in a priority population. So out of school youth, not attending any school. There's one little exclusion. So if the young person is working or not working, if they are going to GED classes, say through adult education, then even though they're in school, they are served in the out of school youth program. I know that's a little weird. And then down here at the bottom, kind of that first rung, are all the different types of barriers or challenge to employment that can make individual eligible. So school dropout, truant, sometimes we get referrals from the school attendance review board. Justice involved, that's either currently justice involved, or maybe they had previous connections to the justice system. Runaway, homeless, foster youth, former foster youth, pregnant and parenting. So this would be both males and females. So parenting does include young men who are parents. And then disability will also make them eligible. And then this kind of three-part one over to the right is if they're a high school graduate, then we look at low income and their skill level. If their basic skills deficient, that means they're not at a high school level and may need some remediation. And then English language learners is also a target population. So next slide. So this slide looks kind of similar to the other one. This is the in-school youth program. You'll notice that the age drops down to 14, but there really our focus in Contra Costa is the 16 to 21-year-olds. So in school, in high school is fine. Sometimes we've got some post-secondary in-school folks here. And then to be served through the in-school program, low income is a determination factor. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll see the same list of challenges to employment or barriers that were shown on the out of school youth slide. So, next slide. So the WDB priority industries, thank you, Anthony, for calling those out. So these are industries with kind of groups of occupations associated with them that the WDB has determined are kind of growing sectors, or they'll lead to a living wage. A lot of times when the young folks come into the WIOA youth program, they're really not on a career pathway. And so during that kind of discovery phase and career assessment phase is where we kind of share with them, hey, these are some industries that you may want to take a look at because they're pretty promising in terms of how much you can earn, whether or not they're growing, the different types of occupational choices that are found in each of these industries. So we like to call those out. Next slide. Okay, so there is a flow to the WIOA youth program. Starts with eligibility and intake. That's where we check and make sure that they qualify and are eligible for the program. And then in the youth program, they get a comprehensive objective assessment to help them kind of figure out, well, what career path do I want to pursue? So it should align with their interests, with their values, with the labor market, and the types of educational attainment levels that they want. And then each young person develops a plan, basically a career and educational plan to help them get from wherever they are to a job or post-secondary education, hopefully with an industry recognized credential. So then they do that. Most of the young people are in our program, say 16 to 18 months, followed by at least a year of kind of follow-up and retention services. So that's the kind of the flow of the program. And then next slide, please. And then here's some of the things that they get. So it's very comprehensive and individualized. career and educational planning. They have that kind of reference document they develop, paid work experience. So a young person may get a time limited experience on a work site that matches their career goals. So there are young people who have been working at, say, CVS. Maybe they're on the drugstore. Maybe they're on track to get their pharmacy tech license, and we start them off by getting them paid work experience so that they can see up close and personal what a pharmacy tech does, and then pair that with a tuition assistance, so we can also kind of pay for school tuition, those kinds of things. Pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship opportunities, you'll hear about some of those later in today's presentation, and the WIOA Youth Program can provide linkages and funding for folks to participate in those. Mentoring, work readiness, job search assistance. One thing we like to do with the financial literacy, if a young person is actually getting a paycheck, then that makes that financial literacy piece really super relevant, like how to manage money, what kinds of banking tools are best for them, all of that. Entrepreneurship training, leadership development opportunities, and then supportive services, which are kind of additional financial assistance to help them participate in these WIOA activities. Not all youth get all of those things, so it's really tailored to what their plan is. Next slide. And then WIOA measures success by looking at employment outcomes and also educational outcomes and the attainment of industry recognized certificates. So let's see, for examples of what some young folks have done through the program. So we've got a medical sonographer who got tuition assistance and is now working. We've also had someone do truck driver long haul training, get their license to drive the 18-wheelers. So those are kinds of credentials and occupations. And we've also got office assistants and just really the gamut. So next slide. And then just sharing some age group demographics with you. This is a little strange because the age is, so 16 to 18 are the younger folks. That makes up the bulk of the young people out of school. We've got 20% are age 19 to 21, with a smaller percentage in that older young adult category. Next slide. And then this is, I just pulled some demographics to kind of give you an idea of some of the characteristics of the young people we're serving. So I was really very pleased to see that 30% of the young folks in the youth and young adult program are homeless or housing insecure. We've also got a pretty high percentage of current and former foster youth. So I think we're doing good there. There are some overlap. Some people will show up in multiple categories. Next slide. Oh, and then I thought I'd just end the WIOA section with a clip from a participant and share a little bit with you about their success. So we had a young man who was 20 years old, former African-American former foster youth who was living in transitional housing. And he participated in the out-of-school youth program after he graduated. And he had also had an IEP while he was in school. And he found us through that WDB CCC website and, filled out the very short interest form and then participated in Mount Diablo's Unified School District's YES program. He got his commercial Class A driver's license. And at one point, he had his identity stolen while participating in the program. And so the folks were able to kind of help him recover that and get the legal advice and assistance he needed. And now he's working full time with a national trucking company, going kind of driving those 18-wheelers cross country, delivering supplies to different store chains. And so just wanted to share kind of his story, which kind of helps weave together who we're serving, how we're serving, and what some of those outcomes are. So that's the end of the WIOA kind of portion. Is there enough time for me to just highlight that civil engineering degree apprenticeship program?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. Okay, so that would probably be on the next slide. I think I turned in poll. Okay, we can do the poll first if you want.
Alrighty. So folks, we will try the poll again and we're gonna do our best this time. Hopefully you could see it. So it is timed. I think we have a minute or so to answer. So let me go to our poll here. Think you should see it or see it soon as a pop-up or for a QR code. So we'll give it a moment. And then Norama, in the chat, I do see some questions while we wait for folks to answer the poll.
Oh, sure.
WIOA does job placement and matching for participants. And is this a one-year program, if I'm not wrong, such as one-year apprenticeship? That was a first question from Parisa.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't see the questions.
It looks like a question around if this program does placement and matching for participants.
Sure. So where the placement occurs is we will place young people with a host business for that paid work experience. But what we're really shooting for is teaching the young people how to job search and secure their own employment. So by the time they get out of the WIOA youth program, they should have all the skills that they need to really be able to be their own career planners and make that happen.
Great. And then one more question before I share our poll results was Sarah asking how people sign up or how participants can sign up.
So on our website, and sorry I didn't include that, there is it's a WDB website. There's a short form. If you click on youth, there's a short form to fill out with the person's name and I think town that they live in, city that they live in. If they leave that blank, say they don't have a regular spot that they are, it'll go to both providers and they'll sort it out.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so thank you folks for those of you that participated in the poll. First question asks, the WIOA youth program only serves low-income individuals. True, false?
So actually that is false. So the out-of-school youth program only looks at barrier, not necessarily income. For the in-school youth program, it's barrier and low income.
Okay. And then second question was, which activity or service is not a part of WIOA? And it sounded, I think most folks got it right, seed money to start a business.
Yes.
So not a part.
They could get entrepreneurial training and actually, make steps towards starting their own business. But if they needed the seed money, then we would loop in the Small Business Development Center or other resources like that for those kinds of things. Yep, great job.
Great. And Norma, if there was another slide, I did not have it on this copy. So maybe if you want to
Okay.
take a moment to speak about it, and we can make sure when the slides are sent out to include that additional slide.
Sure. So the slides that'll go out later, one is a really nice graphic of a new civil engineering degree apprenticeship pathway that is being launched in partnership with currently Contra Costa Community College, and then a couple years from now that will launch at DVC. And just we just started the first bridge program at Contra Costa College. That was a cohort of 20 students who are over the summer doing math remediation in preparation for doing 2 years at community college in civil engineering through a pre-apprenticeship program, and then with an articulated transfer to a 4-year university for engineering, paired with, now this is the exciting part, it's an apprenticeship. So the idea is that an engineering firm, currently Caltrans, TCS, Jacob, some of those other employers, will actually hire the person, and they will be employed in their field of engineering while they're doing their third and fourth year of the degree program, so that they will graduate with not only the 4-year degree in engineering, but a whole portfolio of work experience, internships, working on different uh, research projects, and then finally that apprenticeship. So very, very powerful combination of activities. And any of the young people that you're working with, or young adults who have an interest, even if their math skills are a little shaky, this project is really designed to meet them where they're at. And so I really, really encourage um, folks, if you've got young people who are interested in the science, engineering, technology, and math, to take a look at the CDAP project. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Narama, for sharing about the youth programs. I will mention that Caroline from our team did drop a link to the website with information about the apprenticeship pathway program. So be
Right.
sure to check it out, folks. And with that being said, if you do have questions for Narama, feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to her separately. Her information will also be shared. And we will go to our next presenter. We have Serena Moore, program manager from EMT and co-manager for Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa, to speak about the EMT and paramedic career pathway.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Just like Anthony, this is my first time presenting, so bear with me. EMT is our staple onboarding program into our healthcare initiative, which can ultimately lead to becoming a paramedic. It's a very vital and vibrant part of our workforce here in Contra Costa County, healthcare in general. And we've ran over, I think, 8 successful EMT cohorts since I started a couple years ago. So it's close to my heart, and definitely has done some great work here in the county in helping people find employment opportunities. These roles aren't going anywhere, so we have a constant need to keep this pipeline going through our training program. We can go to the next slide. EMTs don't just take a 3 to 5 month course, they also receive certification. So they take a national registered exam called the NREMT, and they become certified EMTs, and they go on to also get their ambulance license. So getting those certifications are key and pivotal points to becoming EMTs, and we make sure that whether our participants are attending Mount Diablo Adult School or Contra Costa College, that they receive assistance in prep and preparing for those certifications. Um, Once you become a certified EMT, it can lead to, again, being a paramedic. It can lead to nursing. A lot of people go into fire services or any type of crisis response. We have at least 6 ambulance companies here in the Contra Costa area that are constantly hiring for EMT. So EMT, when I think of people who want to become EMT, they have a sense of urgency to want to serve their community, to want to help. They're excellent in crisis situations. They're even-tempered and have big hearts and want to serve their communities directly. Basic requirement, being 18 years old, having a high school diploma, and a valid driver's license with less than 2 points. One of the things that you have to do to become an EMT, just to take the EMT course, is become CPR certified, and that is basic life skills, so BLS CPR certification. This can be taken at Mount Diablo Adult School, as well as Contra Costa College, or even some private organizations that will certify you as in CPR. Um, it is a fast-paced environment. Like I said, you're only in school a few months. I think at Contra Costa College, you're in school 3 months, and at Mount Diablo Adult, it's maybe closer to 4 months, but very quick turnaround. We did just get ready. Well, we did just expand the EMT course at Mount Diablo to more encompass emergency medical services, EMS. And that class has been extended to full time. It's Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Um, you need to be able to handle the class and coursework. There are physical attributes that are important, being able to lift and pull patients. You need to be emotionally resilient, which I am not. I cry at everything. EMT would not be ideal for me. And you must be able to commit to full-time training schedules and meet attendance expectations. There's some Saturdays that you have to do ride-alongs with the ambulance and practice working on the EMT dummies and different stimulations that take place. And so sometimes there are Saturdays involved, and we always let participants know that up front. But commitment, EMT has to become your lifestyle when you choose to enter this program. So we make sure that our participants know that going in. It's important for them to have reliable transportation to get to class, childcare so that they aren't interrupted, and ability to focus during intense training. Again, we are now doing AV simulations where people feel like they're in the field, so they're kind of getting a sense of that intensity and that adrenaline that's running when you're out there doing the field work. So this is now all a part of the training, which is a crucial upgrade in preparation for AMT. Get to the next slide. Um, we originally started off with Mount Diablo Adult Education Center. They were terrific in helping us launch EMT. They're very hands-on. I always tell people we have 2 options, Mount Diablo and Contra Costa College. The difference between the two is Mount Diablo has worked with the board to kind of create a seamless hand-holding experience. Again, they offer CPR, and they have even held special sessions for students who may need that prerequisite right before registering them into the EMT program. They can help facilitate background checks. They have connections with Kaiser and Medi-Cal, so they know exactly what paperwork needs to be filled out for your immunizations, who to contract, what the process is. Um, the ITA setup with Mount Diablo covers uniforms and tuitions and books. So I like to think of Mount Diablo as kind of a one-stop shop. Their case manager is on campus to help you register and enroll in Cal Jobs and sign up for WIOA services. So if you're in that area and you need a more handheld experience, I always recommend Mount Diablo. However, some people just can't get to Mount Diablo, and Contra Costa College has an excellent EMT curriculum. Their rates are really good on having the participants pass the national exam and even job placement, even though they don't have career services necessarily built in to their program like Mount Diablo does. At Contra Costa College, it's important to get WIOA enrolled early so that we can help support some of those onboarding costs like CPR, immunizations, getting your uniforms, books. The ITA at Mount Diablo, which is the individual training accounts that are set up between the board and the training institution, is also supporting the tuition as well as books and some key uniform items. However, immunizations, background checks, CPR has to be done all by the individual. And then if they want reimbursement, as long as they were WIOA enrolled when they started that journey of incurring those costs, then we're able to provide reimbursements to support them. And as you can see, AMR is listed at the top there, our employer partner. They have hired several of our EMT graduates, and they are also our employer partner leading into our paramedic apprenticeship. So their partnership is key for our EMT to paramedic program. Falk, Royal Ambulance, Pro Transport, and NorCal Ambulance are all excellent other ambulance companies that are hiring our EMT graduates. Our teachers at both Mount Diablo Adult and Contra Costa College have relationships with these employers and often make referrals from their students that have completed the certification and are looking for employment opportunities. So both our training providers are dedicated to helping our EMTs find employment, whether it's with AMR or one of these other local ambulance companies. Again, our community partners are EMS Corps, which I mentioned earlier, just expanded the EMT curriculum at Mount Diablo Education. That curriculum is only offered at Mount Diablo's day class. It was a heavy lift for Mount Diablo to take their course from part-time to full-time. So right now we're in the middle of our pilot for EMS Corps, but things are going very well. We've had very good participation feedback thus far. The students are enjoying the expanded curriculum, the new technology, and different things like career coaching and counseling that come with partnering with EMS Corps. And then our local CBOs just happen to be our training providers, Mount Diablo and Contra Costa College. Training is available. Class. That is because this is a full-time course. We had several participants leave the night class at Diablo, which is still part-time, enroll in the daytime course just because it was so financially supported, and it allowed them to alter their job schedules to be able to take full-time courses, knowing that they may have loss of wages, but this additional $100 a month. I just want to state that this funding is taxed. So you will receive tax information at the end of the year, but we do provide training on how to write this off as an educational fund, basically, so that you can avoid paying taxes on it. But I just like to be transparent that you will receive tax documents at the end of the year. Tuition, uniforms, and testing fees are covered at both sites. Once you sign up for CalJobs and you qualify for WIOA and WIOA enrolled. I'm proud to say that even if you're a poverty population, the board has a 25% threshold where we're still helping participants who may be out already still barriers or are not considered in the low income, but definitely still low income, be wage. We everyone, we don't turn anyone away unless if they're making, over 100K or something crazier like that, just going to school for a hobby, but has a clear desire to want to become an EMT and go to work. We do our best to support them. We offer wraparound services, including coaching, peer mentorship, assistance with childcare costs and transportation costs through WIOA supportive services, or just the fact that right now the classes are supported by stipend. Even the night class and the day class at Contra Costa receive a minimum of 2,500 WIOA supportive services. It's a more incentive setup to where we support them with their onboarding registration, midterm completion, course completion, passing their national certification, and then a job placement. So still 500 in supportive services for our night class at Mount Diablo and our day class at Contra Costa College. Again, the day class is now full-time, much more intense, expanded curriculum, but also some really good things like the stipends, the AV goggles. Mount Diablo just got their own ambulance, so the students are able to practice on an ambulance, which is physically on campus, which is really cool. And they're going through some additional physical training for that day class, being supported by EMS Corps, getting them better prepared physically for being an EMT. Leadership here at the board and Mount Diablo and Contra Costa, we're always looking at how to integrate mentorship, any way we can continue to support our participants and just the program in general, but we try to make sure that our participants have a well-rounded experience on their pursuit to being an EMT. As I stated here, EMTs can start at $22 an hour and all the way up to 28. And paramedics start earning at around $35 up to $65, depending on where they are in their career path. They can do ambulance services, fire. We have several EMTs that go into the fire academy. We work very closely with the Richmond Workforce Development Board, who is in charge of a fire youth academy, and we often get several student participant referrals for EMT for fire. They can also go into police and first responder employment, go on to do medical assistance, nursing, or even behavioral health crisis team. So EMT is a doorway into the health industry. That's just the way I like to look at it. There's so many different career pathways you can choose and build on from EMT. I also want to point out that the board's EMT programs, whether you go to Mount Diablo Adult School or Contra Costa College, you are able to earn college credits. And this is very important. There are other EMT programs that only focus on getting you certified nationally, but don't always offer college credits. So when you go to pursue some of these other medical fields, you have to take the college courses over. But because we have Mount Diablo Adult has an articulation agreement with CC College, they're able to offer college credits through CC College. And of course, if you attend the EMT program at CC College, you will receive college credits there as well. So again, a very robust, well thought out, well structured program that can lead to a lot of different pathways and just general success in your pursuit of education to get into the healthcare career. We can, I just did ran some numbers recently. EMT here at the board has been supported by various specialty grants, and we leverage those specialty grants to offer incentives to our participants to keep them on track with passing the national registered exam. This is a heavy lift anytime you have to take a national exam, but again, we provide tutoring and training, follow-up services, and cash. If you pass the national registered exam, you can receive anywhere from an additional $500 to $700 in incentives, which has really helped our pass rate for this national exam. We do reverse recruitment by going into the adult college, going into the classroom at Contra Costa College and seeking out anybody from a diverse background. Richmond students are referred to Richmond Workforce Development Board in partnership with us. And then San Pablo EDC handles any participants that are identified in the Contra Costa area. We're looking to start having paramedic alumni speak to our EMTs. We have not quite completed our first round of paramedic. It's an 18-month program, so it's a little longer, but our first round of paramedic apprenticeships are getting ready to probably complete by the end of this year or early next year at the latest. And we're very excited that we have 60 people currently in the pipeline for the paramedic apprenticeship. Many people that do go into EMT work are because they're doing other side jobs that are just not providing a steady wage. They have a call to work. They want to help their community. They want to be involved in emergency services, and they just want what we all want, which is a consistency and mobility to grow once you get into a pathway. Unfortunately, there's a ton of jobs, but they don't often lead to advancement, and EMT does that for our participants. Um, AMR is specifically looking to hire experienced EMTs. So the experienced EMTs have to be working 12 months to 18 months to go into our paramedic apprenticeship, but they're able to help those participants who started off in EMT and are looking to advance their career and even make more money to better support their family and support themselves. Um, so the EMT to paramedic pathway is strong. It does take some time. Like I said, 12 to 18 months before they can move on to the paramedic apprenticeship. But as the program manager, I'm always looking how to fill gaps. And I'm currently working on creating a paramedic um, kind of paramedic prep, which will be in that intersection between being an EMT and onboarding into the paramedic apprenticeship. Oh, let's see. So RERP was currently providing stipends and incentives up to $27.50, which was amazing. When I first started working with RERP, I wasn't able to provide participants with such a high amount of financial support. But, because we're always reaching to push the bar, when EMS Corps came along offering $1,500 a month, it kind of made $27.50 seem like small fries, but that's what we do here at the board. We're always looking to see how we can better incentivize our programs and provide more financial support. So, we've gone from as low as $1,000 in supporting programs all the way up to $7,500 throughout the course of the program. So that's our most recent transition from RERP incentives, which provided $27.50, which was still amazing, a good chunk of money to provide to any participant going through a training program. Now to the EMS Corps stipends, which provide up to $7,500 throughout the program. We've talked about the fact that you can advance into nursing, fire, or behavioral health. Poll time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Serena. I do
You're
see
welcome.
questions in the chat. So maybe if you're able to take a peek at the chat, and I think something happened to my slides, I'll fix that. And we'll save the rest of the questions for the end, folks, just to keep us on schedule here. But for now, I will go ahead and pull up our next poll. Alrighty. And so
I see someone was asking about reliable transportation. We just want to ensure that the participant can get to the training provider so that they have. Contra Costa College has a bus line that drops them off right in front of the school. I'm not sure how easy it is to get to Mount Diablo via public transportation, but I always recommend participants to use the BART tool to map out how they get to the school. And if they need assistance with the cost of transportation, that's something that we can look into helping them with through the WIOA supportive services, or they can leverage their stipends that they're getting to maybe pay for an Uber or Lyft. But we just want to ensure that they have their transportation worked out before registering for the program, because attendance is very important. As a matter of fact, the stipends, the $1,500 stipends that are received are based on a merit system. And so you have to be passing the class and have good attendance to avoid that $1,500 dropping to a less amount because performance is down. So we just want to ensure that people have a way to get to the training providers on a regular basis.
Wonderful. Thank you, Serena. I'll go ahead and end our poll and share results so that and we will have a few minutes at the end for additional questions. I know I do see some in the chat. So first question, what is the monthly stipend for EMS? Folks answered, and the correct answer was $1,500 a month for a total amount up to $7,500. What qualifies someone to what qualities make someone thrive in EMS roles? All of the above. So having that diploma or GED, being physically fit, right? Because it's a physically demanding job, reliable transportation and childcare, and be comfortable in stressful and fast-paced environments. Thank you, Serena.
You're
And
welcome.
without further ado, we'll go ahead and move on to our next presenter of the morning. So we're going to go ahead and hear from Claire Michaels, the Regional Manufacturing Career Specialist with East Bay Works.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am going to kind of zoom out a little bit from a specific program and dig into one of those priority sectors that Anthony and Serena mentioned early on about, that are WIOA priorities, which is advanced manufacturing. So I actually worked for all four boards of the workforce development boards in the East Bay. So that's Oakland, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, and Richmond. Our collaboration is called East Bay Works, and my role is to focus in on manufacturing careers. So you can go to the next slide. So I wanted to just ask everyone to take a moment and think, if someone mentions US manufacturing to you, what is something that comes to mind? So I know there's a lot of people here. You could either unmute yourself or put it in the chat, but like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Cars, I see, like that. Steel, nice. Things made in the US, okay, nice. In need, so like we need to do that. Warehouses, that's good. Assembly lines. Okay, so I'm gonna stick on the assembly lines thing, because I think one thing that happens a lot with manufacturing is that we think about the auto industry, big manufacturing, people standing there, making things. And the manufacturing sector has changed a lot in the world and also here in the US. But these are great to kind of start with what comes to your mind, and then I'll see if I can add a little bit more. Next slide. So what do you think are the top 2 manufacturing countries in the world? Anyone have guesses? China and Mexico. China. So we've got China, but what's the second one other than China? Okay. China. All right, we have one person who's right. Claudia says China and the US. Yes, so let's go to the next slide. So you'll see here, some of those other countries that you mentioned, India, I didn't even see Mexico, they're really not anywhere near where the US is and China are. I mean, Germany is a little closer, but the 2 big powerhouses in manufacturing are China and the US. That's kind of interesting to think about. We see a lot of things made in India, made in Indonesia, made in you know, other places, but really when it comes to like the amount of manufacturing happening, those are the 2 big powerhouses. Next slide. So US manufacturing is growing. It obviously COVID has made some made an impact. So did a big recession in 2007, but really, it has been going up, even though there's been a lot of changes in the way manufacturing looks. Next slide. So how are we doing in California with manufacturing? So California is actually the largest manufacturing state in the country. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. Certainly not what you would guess with the high costs of California. But California is a big state in terms of just its size, also the different types of industries, and also a lot of innovation. So a lot of manufacturing companies may do their production all over the world, but their headquarters are in California. So you'll see a lot of that. Next slide. And a lot of it is in the Bay Area. So that's good news for all of us. Let's go forward. So, you think of like the Midwest, I saw steel mentioned, cars, people think, places like Texas or Ohio must have more manufacturing than California. But if you look at this graph, you actually see that, California has more manufacturing than Texas and Ohio, and it's growing faster than those places. So that's another kind of surprise for some people. So let's focus in on the Bay Area. There are over 200,000 jobs in manufacturing in the Bay Area. And these are pictures of some of the things that are made here. And again, it's complex. So it's not like when you saw the tortilla chips, yes, the entire tortilla chip and the bag are made in here. But some manufacturing, it's that one part is made here, one part is made somewhere else in the States, one part is made somewhere in another country, and then it's all put together in a fourth place. So, but these companies are, employing people both in production and in operations and other parts of what make a company work. Next slide. So here's an example of some of the different companies, and you'll notice that some of them are tech companies because tech companies do have hardware. You'll also notice that for example, East Bay Mud is a utility company, right? Because anytime you have something like, the trains or getting water systems going, there's a lot of mechanical parts and people that need to know how to make those machines work and fix them and create the parts for them, so that we consider those parts of manufacturing as well. Okay, so whoever said assembly lines, there's not a lot of assembly lines left in at least not at a huge scale. So like this is a picture of manufacturing in China, not in the US. Next slide. But there's a lot more automation. So a lot of times the people who are working in the manufacturing floor are using a computer that's called like a computer numeric controlled device to tell the machine what to do. So that language and those like knowing how to work with automation is a lot of what manufacturing has become. Next slide. So, finding skilled workers is definitely the biggest issue in manufacturing. If you get a bunch of manufacturers together, it's a huge issue. And so I think that's really where the opportunity is for us as a region to focus on manufacturing and to try to help get more people to enter into the manufacturing sector. So, these are just some different news articles that have been recently put out there about the problems that manufacturing jobs are going unfilled because people are not having the skills that they are looking for. Okay, next slide. And I'm going to pause there and answer one of the questions I see in the chat. Felony reentry within the manufacturing companies. I think definitely certain companies, I would say that the companies that are more forgiving tend to be the smaller companies. So those are the ones that have less kind of corporate rules about reentry. I would say also that manufacturing companies really care about skills more than anything else. And so if you have someone who is reentry who did something related to manufacturing in their previous, while they were incarcerated, and they are able to bring those skills. They know how to use a CNC, they know how to work in a metal shop, they were a line cook, whatever it is, like that's going to be really valuable. And I think the smaller a company is, the less likely it is to have some type of restrictions. I also think that sometimes when manufacturers are working in the defense industry, they have some restrictions about that, but not usually. Yes, they do assist in training people. So most manufacturers have a lot of on-the-job training. And they if you come in at an entry level role, you'll have the opportunity to learn and advance. So here's an example of some of the jobs in the Bay Area in manufacturing. So if you start at the entry level, those are like the assemblers, the operators. Those are people who are doing more of maybe putting things together, or I would also add to that like shipping and receiving, or people moving things around a warehouse. So that's going to start at, the $20 an hour. It's not necessarily something that comes in at a much higher level than retail or service, but the opportunity to advance to something like a machine operator or quality control is really there in a way that I feel like it's not always there in other industries, because these businesses are, they do train from within. Your other question was about clients with learning disabilities. Yeah, I mean, I think that all the businesses have to follow all the rules about accommodating folks with disabilities. I think there are some, any accommodation that's required it needs to be met by law. I also think that there are some folks with certain types of disabilities that are actually really good at certain types of manufacturing tasks. So I know there's been some training specifically targeted towards folks with different types of disabilities. So, but yeah, I think that anyone who can, I do think there's a lot of regulations to follow and sort of tasks, following specific tasks. So I do think that that's something that um, that's folks in manufacturing have to be able um, to kind of master. Okay, I'm going to pause on the questions for a minute. Can you go back to one slide? So this next part is just kind of my 2 cents about how to guide people towards manufacturing opportunities. So, you know, this is, you can decide whether or not you really think it is something you want to guide people towards. But while the starting wages are similar to other industries, uh, manufacturing really does have more stability and opportunities for advancement than some other industries. So I'm going to give you some tips about how what might help you convince someone to consider manufacturing. So next slide, please. So one is the reliable schedule. So if you work retail or service, you're going to get your schedule a week, 2 weeks in advance. It's really hard to plan things like childcare, transportation. If you work at a manufacturing company, you're going to have a set schedule. You're going to be able to plan your life around it. The other is the educational advancement. So those consistent hours mean that you can, once you're already working, take classes, and also learn on the job. A lot of manufacturing companies will pay for you to go to a community college and learn, some more advanced skills that can really get you from one level up to the next one. The next is employee benefits. So manufacturing careers are more likely to come with benefits that provide long-term security. So paid sick time, paid vacation, health insurance, retirement contributions, education support. And that's even without, talking about unions. Unions obviously provide a lot of, you know, job quality insurance, and some manufacturing jobs are union represented. And then there's the professional growth. So, whenever I visit manufacturers, I see a lot of people who, started on the production floor, are now leading a team, are now doing quality control. And so, or were really good with machines and are now, you know, a machine maintenance person. And a lot of those, that's not something they had to go to college for. That's something that they were able to kind of demonstrate their abilities and grow within the company. So that's something to consider. Next slide. So I want to talk about transferable skills for a second. So a lot of job seekers are going to be thinking with manufacturing, well, I don't really have experience in manufacturing. What, it's not going to come to their mind. But I want you to think when you're working with clients that anyone who's done something with their hands, something that is, showing mechanical aptitude could have a leg up when it comes to manufacturing jobs. So a hairstylist, a nail technician, an esthetician, a makeup artist, those people are really good at very, very fine motor skills. So they could be good at, doing some sort of electronics assembly. Obvious, it's a little more obvious, but handyman, construction worker, trades worker, those are all skills that could transfer over to manufacturers. Also, any kind of repair, like if if your clients are the kind of person who knows how to fix up, appliances in their own home, or they work on motorcycles with their uncle, like those are things that they can leverage to get into a manufacturing job. And then, things like food preparation, catering, or even janitors or maintenance, you're following very specific rules where you have to do 1, 2, and 3 before you can get to 5, 4, 5, and 6. So those kind of jobs can also be really good transferable skills for manufacturing. And all these things don't have to be, done in a formal job. They can be done, as a volunteer or just as a member of their community, and they can still highlight this in the interview process. Um, all right, and then the last thing, I believe this is my last slide. I wanted to draw attention to a website called BayAreaManufacturingCareers.com. So this is a website run by Mark Martin with the California Community Colleges, and it shows which community colleges have manufacturing programs all over the Bay Area. There's also there's also some jobs posted. There's also some great listservs you can get on. It's not the fanciest website, but it is very solid in terms of providing information about our manufacturing resources here in the Bay Area. And I will pause there and see if we can get to some of the questions in the chat. Do I take referrals for manufacturing job search and application? So I work with the providers at the Workforce Development Board. So if your clients, earlier when Anthony was talking about how to get connected to WIOA services and Narama was talking about that, those folks have access to me to help with manufacturing job search and application. So I'm like one step removed, but if your clients are working with a WIOA provider, that provider and I can work together to help your client get connected to a manufacturer. Parisa, does that answer your question? I hope so. And then let's see. Computer science majors, yeah, definitely. That would be great. Definitely mechanically inclined folks like that. Okay, and then I had a poll, I think. I don't remember. Okay.
Yep, gonna go ahead and pull that up. And I know we lost our slides because I pressed something, but I will go ahead and start our poll here. Writing. Okay. So folks, go ahead and take a moment. Checking for understanding, which is not a job with strong transferable skills to manufacturing.
Yeah, and the reason that I really emphasize the transferable skills is that, for like quality control, for example, those are folks who are really organized. Those are the people who are really type A and their room's really clean and their trunk's really organized. And like, that's not something you need to go to school for. That's just like a personality trait. So uh, those are these kind of attributes and transferable skills can get you a long way with manufacturing. Are still people still answering?
Let's go ahead and end. And That looks like most folks answer correctly, not necessarily a history teacher, although maybe the history teachers
Oh,
in them
sure.
might argue that, but
Right. No, history teachers certainly would argue it, but the point is that that doesn't show, it shows like people skills, but not mechanical aptitude. So for the folks that said manicurist, I mean, I have helped to place a manicurist um as a electronics assembly person. So I can say for sure that if you can draw tiny flowers on someone's nails, you can, move a tiny part into another tiny part. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Claire.
and yeah, and really I work directly with all 4 boards, so I am accessible just for anyone who is already in that WIOA system.
Wonderful. So another great resource, folks, and we will. You can feel free to continue asking questions, and our panelists can answer. And for questions around the slides, they will be sent out on Friday, so all the contact info and everything will be sent. And without further ado, we'll move on to our last presenter, um, Patricia Connolly, a program manager with EHSD. She's going to be speaking about the Maritime Skills Training Program.
Good late morning to everybody. TGIM. Thank you for hanging in here to hear about the Maritime program. I can't get my slides to move over, so I'm not going to be watching the camera like I thought. Oh, there they are. Well, these are just pictures. I need my words. So to get started on the Maritime program, some of the largest ship and repair maintenance facilities on the West Coast have reported a significant shortage of skilled workers in the maritime trades. In response, the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County received a grant last March of 2023 to develop and launch the Marine Trade Skills Training Program. This became a pilot program for a grant that's currently running, which is a High Roads Training Partnership, Marine Trades and Waterfront Transportation Careers Grant, which is now led by the Alameda Workforce Development Board in collaboration with Contra Costa and Oakland Workforce Development Board. The programs prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion by focusing on strategic outreach efforts. We collaborate with local partners in underserved communities to recruit individuals who may otherwise lack exposure to the maritime industry. This priority is given to English language learners, immigrants, homeless and housing insecure, justice-involved individuals, people with disabilities, veterans, and women. I've seen that, there were transportation questions. In this program, we have improved. We're on our 4th cohort to begin in September 2nd. We just finished our info sessions for that and selection. And by this time now, we have partnered with BART and have been handing out BART passes. We have supportive services if you're co-enrolled in WIOA or even through the program itself. To help people who have barriers such as transportation. The Industry Advisory Board, you can, to the next slide, please. This is the cohort 1, and it takes place on Mare Island in Vallejo. Not easy to get to, but so far we've had a success rate of 97% graduates. The program's, the Industry Advisory Board of Maritime Specialists guided the curriculum. It's a fast track training program from 10 to 8 weeks. We did the last cohort in 8. Instruction includes entry level training on carpentry, painting, welding, and other skills. Next slide, please. So they built those tables in cohort 1 and have been using them as part of the training program. That's the facility from inside the training site at Mare Island. And instruction includes welding, which they go to at California State University Maritime. And with additional skills development, they have a 1-week on-site training at Bay Ship and Yacht in Alameda and at Mare Island Dry Dock. and also aboard an actual ship of Red Oak Victory ship. It's a historic ship. The entire program cohort is designed to prepare up to 300 participants with introductory skills for careers as painters, carpenters, machinists, and welders. Participants obtain safety certifications and hands-on experience and comprehensive support services, including stipends. Many do qualify for WIOA, and we certainly get them enrolled with WIOA because that can help fill gaps in what the training program may not provide. The program also helps with resume development, interviewing skills. It gives them a wonderful opportunity to network with guest speakers that come in that are within the industry, such as anyways, so since its launch, we have enrolled 43 participants with 41 graduating. Like I said, a great completion rate. There's 19 currently employed, several in the maritime industry, but it is like Claire was speaking to, a manufacturing training, and many of these skills are transferable, and some have gotten employed with the entry-level skills that they've learned in other industries. And meanwhile, we continue to push out whatever openings there are in the maritime industry to the graduates. The program will continue to build employer partnerships and refine the curriculum based on industry feedback and enhance comprehensive supportive services to increase the employment outcomes. In cohort 3, we initiated stipends for up to $100 per reporting period, so we can get actual feedback on whether they are, their success rate interviewing and getting employment, and whether it's in the maritime industry or not. Cohort 1 and 2 came with a $1,800 stipend, and now the cohorts 3 and continuing through the remaining amount up to 300 participants. It's a $1,250 stipend. Let's see, what else? And then participants, next slide, please. Participants may register for the next information session at waterfrontjobs.com. That's the training provider we contracted to help with the trainings, and this is the cohort 1 completion right there at the ferry entry place in Mare Island. You'll notice Nancy Pelosi came out and met with them for the day. And we have several, excuse me, people interested in helping to support this program. So let me speak to it real quick.
Suffixes to the Martinez zip.
We've had several partners and that have visited the training cohorts, such as American Navigation and Water Emergency Transportation Authority, the Inland Boatmen's Union. That's a key component to the transportation element that will hopefully be opening up through this grant. And that would be working on ferries and other maritime career or employment pathways, and Chevron. Let's see. All righty, and so that's it in a nutshell. Luckily, it's short and sweet. And if anyone would like more information, there's my contact info. And thank you for staying through the end.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Her contact info is there on the screen. And then what we will do is go ahead and drop in the chat a link to the Workforce Development Board website with the landing page to all the programs you heard about. But we'll go ahead and do our last poll before we have space for question and answer. So I think we did have some questions in the chat, maybe that did not get answered. So let's do our poll here. To ask about what you heard around the maritime training program. So where does the maritime training program take place? Give folks another moment. All righty. So a lot of options. I think we heard a few things about Mare Island, but trick question. It sounds like all of the sites except the Boblo boat does host or is the site for one of these employment training. So good to note there. And with that being said, we will go ahead and open it up in our last 10 minutes here together for question and answer. And I'm also going to drop a survey link in the chat here. So if you ask a question in the chat, maybe that did not get answered, or if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand so we can ask our presenters any questions that we may have, especially on how to connect our participants to any of these programs that you heard about. Ready? And I'm gonna go before you leave. Please take a moment to complete our survey. The link was just dropped in the chat. So folks, great resources for all our participants. If we go back and think to some of those system performance measures, we know that employment or lack of employment was the cause of many of our participants' homelessness. And I did see one hand. Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess the curiosity is with regards to barriers to employment. I didn't see anything particularly with made mention to individuals with SUD or mental health issues. Could any of the presenters speak to those areas of uh, requirements, if at all, uh, for a lot of the folks that we encounter? Um, these are measures that they're working towards stabilization, but I know that in some of their searches for employment, those matters do come up.
Great question, Eric. So around participants that maybe have a substance use disorder, any things from our presenter to note around requirements or expectations for participants in any of the programs?
I'm the Serena Moore with the Workforce Development Board. I was just going to say for EMT and paramedic, because it's such a high intense environment, having a strong mental health going into the program is key. However, I'm sure if someone needed referrals or some type of assistance with engaging with our case managers or HACC, there's some type of referral or assistance that can be offered. But unfortunately, to enter into the EMT or paramedic program, it would require strong mental capacity.
And I'm going to speak to that too, because, you know, we list a long line of diversity, equity, and inclusion populations. And at least in our info sessions, when I'm in the room, it is to face barriers as they come to us. And I have faith in our WIOA coaches, if especially they're co-enrolled with WIOA, that those barriers are addressed. And if not directly with us, through our connections with our partner agencies. So, you know, I have a strong belief that we're walking the talk with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patricia and Serena. Any other questions for our speakers while we have them? Alrighty, folks. For slides and recording of this training, they will be shared on Friday. So sit tight. You'll get all those slides. I know I'm one of those folks that I love to go back and look at the information that was shared. We also do post these trainings to our training landing page on our H3 website. So they will be around in the recording for any team members that weren't able to make it. And before you leave, please take a moment to complete our survey. that was shared here in this link, and hopefully that was the right link. And let's see. Let me drop this other link in case it's a different survey. And take a moment to complete our survey. Looks like it was the second link. So please take a moment to complete that training survey so that we can, hear some feedback on today's training. Thank you all for your grace for myself taking over the training for Jamie J, who I know you guys are used to. And of course, thank you to our presenters for taking the time to be here today to share these really great resources for our participants. And with that being said, I'm going to stay here to make sure folks have a chance to get that link. And thank you all for joining. Go
Mary,
ahead.
did
Yes.
everyone get their questions answered in the chat? I tried to answer some of them, but I was running in and out a lot.
It looks like most were answered.
Especially the ones around 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I responded to, is EMT felon friendly? Is it also a work study program? Well, they're getting stipends and they're working. So I don't know if she covered that. I may have missed it.
May I make a suggestion too, because I put it in
Yes.
there and I noticed it got put in more than once, and it may not be in the slides, but a lot of questions I think can be answered through our website. We have all our initiatives listed there. We have information like about business services and about the WEO program itself. So, when you send out the slides, can you just please, this really was a heavy Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County presentation. So it would be good to include that. Rubicon is even contracted by us to do the WEOA coaching. So have them go to our website, and that helps with everything employment for both job seekers and business support.
Yeah. Oh, you're muted, Mary.
I'm muted. I was saying, folks, if you didn't get your question answered, in our last 2 minutes. Otherwise, contact information will also be shared out and some of the links to those helpful websites for information and follow-up. If you haven't done so already, please take a minute to complete our survey. And with that being said, we will, Maureen, go ahead. Let me see what we press here.
Yeah,
there we
I
go.
also put a link to eastbayworks.com. That website is the whole East Bay region. And if you go to calendar, you can search on all the workshops at all of the career centers, including WEOA orientation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maureen. That's eastbayworks.com. And there's a link to press calendar where you could see some of those. All righty, folks. Well, thank you to all our presenters and everyone for joining. Please complete that survey, and we will see you guys in another meeting or at next month's training. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you, Mary, for inviting us.
Thanks, Maureen and team. Bye.